This video is sponsored by Aura. If you've ever experienced identity theft, think about what happened and how it impacted you. What did you learn from the experience, and what steps did you take to recover? Sharing your story can help others understand the importance of protecting their identity and inspire them to take action with Aura and their different features to avoid a similar situation. Data broker opt-out, identity theft protection, financial fraud protection, certified data security and privacy, VPN, antivirus, password manager, and 24/7 US-based support. Don't leave yourself open to hackers and scammers. Go to aura.com/KrystlynCrime to get your 14-day free trial. Thanks again to Aura for sponsoring this video. Otylia Burek, later known as Tilly Klimek, was born in Poland and immigrated to the United States as an infant with her parents. In 1895, she married her first husband, Józef Mickiewicz. He passed away in 1914 after a brief illness, with the cause of death listed as heart trouble. Shortly after, Tilly married Joseph Ruskowski, a neighbor who also died soon after their marriage. This pattern continued with a boyfriend who allegedly jilted her, meeting a similar fate. Klimek was eventually tried for the murder of her third husband, Frank Kupsik. While living together at 924 North Winchester, where she had previously resided with a boyfriend under the name Myers, Frank fell ill. Tilly ominously began telling neighbors that Frank would not live long. She taunted him directly, greeting him with phrases like, "It won't be long now, and you'll be dying soon," and joking with others that he had 2 inches to live. Her morbid behavior escalated as she knitted her own mourning hat while sitting at Frank's bedside, later wearing it to her trial. She even asked the landlady for permission to store a discounted coffin she'd purchased in the basement. These actions contributed to rumors that she could predict deaths. In 1921, after Frank's death, Tilly married Joseph Klimek and moved to 1453 Tell Place. When Joseph became ill, doctors suspected arsenic poisoning, which was confirmed through tests. Tilly was subsequently arrested. It was later reported that she quipped to the arresting officer, "The next one I want to cook a dinner for is you." The bodies of Tilly Klimek's previous husbands were exhumed and found to contain lethal doses of arsenic, while the surrounding soil showed no contamination. Police also arrested her cousin, Nellie Kulik, after Klimek revealed that she had confided in Nellie about wanting to get rid of her husband, Frank. When Nellie suggested divorce, Klimek replied, "I will get rid of him some other way," and claimed Nellie provided her with a substantial amount of poison called rough on rats. Following Klimek's arrest, investigators discovered a disturbing pattern. Several relatives and neighbors of the 2 women had mysteriously died. 2 neighbors, with whom Klimek had quarreled, became severely ill after accepting candy from her. A dog that had annoyed her at the Winchester Street residence was also found to have died from arsenic poisoning. Additionally, several cousins and other family members fell gravely ill shortly after dining at Klimek's house. Altogether, the investigation identified 20 suspected victims, 14 of whom had died. The press began to portray Klimek as more than a lone killer, dubbing her the high priestess of a supposed Bluebeard clique operating in Chicago's Little Poland neighborhood. Authorities arrested and later released other women in the area. Despite her crimes, her last husband, Joseph Klimek, survived but remained hospitalized for over 3 months. It was also discovered that Tilly had profited significantly from life insurance policies taken out on her deceased husbands. In March of 1923, Klimek was found guilty of murdering Frank Kupsik, her third husband. Unlike other women accused of similar crimes, who often escaped conviction due to their charm and beauty, Klimek was described by reporters as a squat woman with broken English, despite having lived in the U.S. since infancy. She was sentenced to life in prison, the harshest punishment ever given to a woman in Cook County at the time. Nellie Kulik was eventually acquitted after spending a year in jail during her protracted trial. Klimek, however, frequently mocked her cousin in prison, at one point tricking her into believing she was about to be hanged. Tilly Klimek died in prison at Joliet Correctional Center on November 20th, 1936. She was buried at the Bohemian National Cemetery in Chicago. On July 23rd, 1914, in the village of Haverstraw, located 20 miles north of New York City, William V. Cleary, the leader of the local Democratic political machine, shot and killed his 18-year-old son-in-law, Eugene M. Newman, whose father was a local newspaper publisher. 5 months later, Cleary stood trial in a dramatic courtroom proceeding, but was acquitted by a jury comprised largely of his political allies. The trial sparked an intensive investigation by a special New York State commission, which uncovered significant irregularities in how the case was handled. However, the commission ultimately took little to no corrective action. Cleary's defense was temporary insanity, which he attributed to discovering that Newman had impregnated and secretly married his daughter, Anna. Anna testified in her father's defense, stating that while Cleary had been aware of her pregnancy, he was unaware of the marriage. Her testimony, coupled with Cleary's emotional embrace of her as she took the stand, reportedly had a profound emotional effect on the jury. However, Cleary's political influence over the legal proceedings likely played an even more significant role in the trial's outcome. District Attorney Thomas Gagan's prosecution was so ineffective that it appeared he was working in Cleary's favor. He failed to block the jury from being filled with Cleary's supporters, allowed baseless attacks on the victim's character to go uncontested, and neglected to call key witnesses who could have disproven Cleary's temporary insanity defense. When the verdict was announced, the courtroom erupted in cheers from Cleary's supporters, with hats thrown into the air in celebration. Judge Joseph Morschauser, however, openly condemned the jury's decision. Fred Newman, the newspaper publisher and father of Eugene Newman, launched a petition campaign to have the trial investigated by the New York governor Charles S. Whitman's office. The investigation uncovered numerous failures and irregularities. Commenting on the prosecutor's failure to defend the victim's reputation, one observer noted, "No more effort was made to show that this boy was a good boy than if a dog had been shot down." Another remarked on the suppression of anti-Cleary witnesses, stating it was dangerous to talk too much and have her straw. Following the investigation, Cleary was removed from office for financial misconduct. He served 2.5 years in Sing Sing and Comstock prisons for fraud before opening a tailor shop in Brooklyn. Fred Newman, however, passed away penniless in 1925 after years of unsuccessfully seeking a retrial for Cleary on the murder charge. Meanwhile, District Attorney Gagan's political career, along with the rest of Cleary's political machine, faded into obscurity. Frederick Moors immigrated from Austria-Hungary to New York City in June of 1914. A German speaker, he found work as a porter at the German Oddfellows home in Unionport, New York, now part of the Bronx, through the Immigrant Free Employment Bureau. The facility housed 250 orphans and 100 elderly men and women. Although Moores terrified many of the elderly residents, he inexplicably garnered the affection of the younger residents and visitors, who seemed to enjoy his company. Not long after starting his job, Moores began displaying signs of megalomania. He wore a white lab coat, with a stethoscope draped around his neck, and insisted that the elderly residents addressed him as her doctor. Between September of 1914 and January of 1915, an unusually high number of deaths, 17 in total, occurred at the German Oddfellows home. Suspecting foul play, the administration contacted police to investigate. The investigation revealed that Moores had murdered at least 8 elderly residents using arsenic and chloroform. He later justified his actions by claiming he was putting them out of their misery. Moores committed his first murder using arsenic, which he had purchased from a local druggist. Finding this method problematic, he eventually switched to chloroform as his preferred means of killing. During the early stages of the investigation, police discovered that both the elderly patients and the staff at the home feared Moores. This led to him quickly becoming the prime suspect. When questioned, Moores calmly confessed to killing 8 of the 17 patients who had recently died. He claimed that these were mercy killings, stating that the patients had been burdensome. He described his method as follows. "I would pour a drop or two of chloroform on a piece of absorbent cotton and hold it to the person's nostrils. Soon they would faint. Then I would seal the body's orifices with cotton, stuffing it in their ears, nostrils, and so on. Next, I would pour a bit of chloroform down their throat to prevent the fumes from escaping in the same way." Moores also claimed that the home superintendent had encouraged him to kill the more ill and elderly patients. The district attorney, after evaluating Moores, determined that he was criminally insane and committed him to the Hudson River State Hospital, awaiting deportation to Austria. However, Moores escaped the institution in May of 1916. In 1917, he reappeared in Torrington, Connecticut, using the alias Frank Maurice Benno, working in the first aid department of the Turner and Seymour Company. He listed the same birthday as Moores on a World War I draft registration. He also sent 3 letters admitting to the murders and revealing his identity as the killer. After leaving behind notes indicating suicidal intentions, Moores vanished in April of 1918. In May of 1923, a skeletonized body was discovered and identified as Moore's. The remains had been there for at least 4 years and were recognized in part due to the shoes Moores and Benno had been known to wear. Nearby, 2 bottles believed to contain poison were found.